Why don't we call the meeting to order? So why don't we go around the room as we always do and introduce ourselves. I'm J.D. Miller, Chair.
Linda Hayes, Director of the Council on Aging.
Laura Minier, Manager of Social Services.
Janice Desmond, Board Member.
Betty Johnson, Liaison for FOSS.
Janice Lindblom, Board Member.
Lucille Sorrentino, Board Member.
Audrey Reading, Lieutenant. Elaine Shambari, with Liaison for the Council on Disabilities, Commissioner on Disabilities.
Gordon Price, Vice Chair, COA.
Leslie James, Board Member.
Dale Baylor, Board Member.
Mike Stewart, Police Chief.
Which is a perfect segue to, we know we're happy to have Chief Stewart here with us tonight. We wanted to sort of start off based on his schedule by turning the meeting over to him, have him hear a little bit about what's going on in the police department and certainly with their new home.
Yeah.
Chief?
Well, I welcome the opportunity. I think the last time I was down speaking to the council was a couple of years ago.
3 years ago, actually, yeah.
Was it?
Yeah.
And Linda and I talk on a regular basis, and we're going to have a police liaison assigned to the council. And it's a work in progress. Some of the people that I had designated for it, they ended up with other. One became a school resource officer, but I do have some good people. I'm going to have some time coming up in the near future to be able to dedicate towards putting that together. The last couple of years have been kind of crazy. Mm-hmm. So with that in mind,
I'm sure they're clamoring. They're clamoring. We'll give you a pass.
Okay, thank you. The public safety complex. I want, at some point, all of you to be able to get up and take a tour of the building.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah.
We're going to open it up. We're still working out some kinks. You know, there's not a day goes by that, there's not something, but we expected all of this. We had spoken to enough people who have opened buildings, and, fortunately, we've been very patient. I love it. I mean, it's beautiful. It's night and day from what we had, but
We don't have wires running along the floor anymore.
no, it's pretty amazing. So, and we have a nice meeting space in there also. So we can seat 60 people for training or a public meeting.
That's decent
We
size.
have a large overhead projector, and we have a video wall, which consists of 60-something inch TV screens, which you can separate or you can watch, you can have a training seminar, just a large one on those. So we're still in the process. So much functionality in this building that there's a huge learning curve. And
How to use it, right?
Exactly. And fortunately, I have some very good tech people on my department.
Thank God.
Because a lot of that went by me, years ago, and I have never caught up. I've stopped chasing it. So, but it is amazing, the technology that's available to us today and what we've put in this building. We have a joint police-fire dispatch. We have 2 full-time stations in there, and they can, touch of a button, they can turn the lights on or the garage doors on at any station in town. So when they get a call, they just hit a button and the garage doors will go up and the lights come on, the tones go up. And, and from the police side, they can monitor from that room the security in the whole building. If one of the panic alarms goes off, whether it's in the Sally Port where the officers drive in and have a prisoner and they go into the booking room. So the booking room, the Sally Ports, the detention areas, all are panic alarms, as do the interview rooms, in case, an interview turns bad. And they hit that, and immediately on one of the screens in dispatch, the video camera from that room pulls up. And what we want to do with that is expand on that. And that's the other thing with this building is, instead of just putting 6 conduit into the ground into dispatch, which we needed, we have 18 coming in. We have, we accounted for future. Long after I'm done, if they need to redo something, they're going to have plenty of the ability to do it, plenty of space to do it. But at Town Hall, we being next door to Town Hall, we were always right there if there was an issue next door. And, even being a mile up the street and a mile up the street from the high school, it makes a little bit of a difference. So at least if what we want to do is put in Town Hall the same type of panic system with a video camera. So if somebody goes into the selectman's office or into the Board of Health or wherever and they're outraged, it's hard to sometimes pick up the phone and make a phone call, but you can hit that panic alarm. The video camera will turn on. Our dispatch will be able to see it and give an indication to the cruisers who are responding what exactly is going on down there, you know, whether it's an argument or worse. In, you know, your public buildings, you know, your libraries, your schools, your, obviously your police station, but your town halls, more and more you gotta bring security up to this day and age, and, you know, we'll be able to do that from this building. So like I said, there's 2 full-time dispatch centers, consoles there. The old consoles from our current building, our old building now, was, they're only 4 or 5 years old, and we had to upgrade with a 911 grant, so we're bringing those up there. Those, we had to keep them in place for 2 to 3 weeks after we turn the new system on. So those are going to move up, and we'll have the ability to have 4 stations in the event of storms and things like that. Generally, during a major nor'easter, we'd have 3 dispatchers sitting at the police department, and the fire department have 3 sitting and just trying to keep up. So, you know, just to have 4, we'll be able to keep up based on the new technology and the new data systems and all that. So, we have administrative offices in the new police station. It's all compartmentalized. Everything patrol-related is downstairs. The detention area, everything detention area is all in one side of the building. And the administration's upstairs, as are the specialists and the detectives. So it's, you know, everybody is on cloud 9.
When can I come to work?
Just even the things like the locker rooms, for instance, and, you know, I mean, as minor as that is in the scope of things, we had people using the basement of the police station.
Yeah.
We had lockers in the shower area in the new addition. And none of the lockers could you put a hanger in it with a shirt on it because they didn't fit. So now there's plenty of space in these. There's outlets in the lockers themselves, so you can charge your cell phone, your flashlight, or your portable radio.
In the locker?
In the
Oh,
locker.
that's a good idea.
And they're all vented, which is a huge thing, too. So, you know, I'll tell you, a lot of people have worked for, I've been involved with it, as has Deputy Chief Thompson, for almost 4 years, from start to finish. And, you know, had it not been for the support of everybody in town, we wouldn't be in there. And, you know, we can't say thank you loud enough or sincere enough to, because it's definitely, we appreciate that support. There's no doubt about it.
We appreciate you.
Thank you.
And it comes back to us, you know, I mean, it's gonna help everybody in Scituate, that you'll be able to do your job
Better.
more effectively and easier.
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
win-win, so.
Yep.
Especially today, safety is paramount.
So in May, probably towards the end of May, we'll be opening it up for tours more on a public basis. For instance, like we'll have Saturdays where we'll have tours 9:30, 11:30, and 1:30. And, you know, so that people, if they have soccer games or Little League games or something, they can hopefully work around that. And, but we'll tour until there's nobody else that needs a tour or wants a tour. But anybody who wants to see the building, we're gonna make it available to them.
What was the model for that building?
What was the
I mean,
model?
yeah, was there a model for it?
There really wasn't. And one of the things, as we first sat down with architects right off the bat, is to build a brick building on Route 3A up there is not going to look nice. So what they wanted to do, they came down, they toured Scituate, and they got a sense for, you know, and so what they planned on was a building with siding and with shingles. Now it's all cement board siding and it's cement board shingles. It's a look-alike, but it, you know, it looks real.
Absolutely.
And to have something that has, you know, I had nothing to do with the paint scheme. I would never go there. But the people that did, I was very impressed with how, it's a good-looking building.
Oh, it is.
And, it looks large, the landscape hasn't come in yet. When the landscape does, I think it'll look nice. And,
Change, for sure, we'll change the frontage, that's for
Yeah.
sure. Yep.
Yeah, so, and the other thing that we have is a landing zone off to looking at the building. The land that's cleared out to the left is a landing zone. So,
Helicopter?
For a
Yeah.
helicopter.
Yeah, right,
Well,
yeah.
mid-flight.
one of the most popular landing zones that we had for a med flight was behind the old police station, which is now the junior high school, middle school. So, we use that one the most because down on Driftway, you could have winds coming across the marsh and things like that. That Conservation Park is another one. We used to use at St. Mary's, but there's no space there to do it anymore. So if we didn't make one there, we felt we were probably going to have to use one in Cohasset, which at that point, I think you're better off just making a run for South Shore Hospital. So it's, what we will also be able to do with that area out there is train. We'll be able to do motor vehicle stuff. We'll be able to pull cruisers out on there and do tactical training. And along the edge of the wood line, what I'm hoping to do is turn around and over a number of years, put an obstacle course out there that the K-9 program, Metrolec K-9 program can use. But, the officers can use it as well. There's nothing that the dogs can't go over, that the guys can't have to go over. And, I'm sure when that comes, there'll be some friendly competition, police fire competition, and there'll be a few injuries too, but that's, so the building just has so much potential. And, like I said, there was many times sitting in construction meetings that we turned around and said that, our goal is to make this a building that 75 to 100 years from now is still there. And, is still highly functional.
We had heard about if someone isn't sure how they feel, they could come to you and either check them out or they go to the hospital.
Yes.
So is that a separate room or?
There's a triage room there.
Okay.
We are back in our old location, the fire station and the police station. We'd have walk-in medical aides all the time. Somebody's on the way to a doctor or on the way to the hospital thinking that they can drive themselves up there, and they get out and they realize,
Yeah,
maybe I should
shouldn't be
stop
doing
and
this,
have
yeah.
this person checked. And that's a very smart thing to do. So if they, if they can walk in the building, the fire department has the ability to take them into the triage room and begin, making initial assessments. And from there, it's a short distance to the apparatus bay with the ambulances. So, right now, they're running an ambulance during the daytime there. The goal is to turn around and make it, have a second ambulance there 24/7. And,
How good is that possibility?
I think it's going to happen.
You think it could
Yeah,
happen?
it's something that we wanted to see happen with this building.
That'd be great.
Right now during the day, those two ambulances are running all the time.
Really?
And so I think in having that ambulance up there and getting it to Minot and getting it to the West End quicker, it's huge. So,
I have one more thing. It's going to sound
Yeah.
naive, but you had mentioned about the town hall, and if there's an emergency, is there anything for the new junior high? I mean, if something goes wrong there, are they set up to let you know?
yes, we
How
have
does that work?
security plans in place for each one of the schools. We've already done a security assessment on the new middle school. And, we come up with a plan. It's no different from what the fire department does.
Okay.
The fire department goes into every building in town that has any size or any, residency, and they fire plan it. If this building caught fire, how would we handle that? Where would we lay lines? Where would we put the ladder, position the ladder, and things like that? We do the same thing with these buildings. And so I have two people that work on that. And during staff meetings, so that the sergeants and the lieutenants and the deputy and I stay up to speed on it, we go over how we want initial setups to go should we have an incident at a school. And it's from a worst-case scenario to a more realistic scenario that you just have, a dad who's estranged from a child show up in an elementary school deciding that, he's going to see that child one way or another.
Right.
Or, what happened this past week,
Oh, please.
a husband or
Yeah.
it's a,
Better drop something
yeah,
off.
it's a domestic situation. And those are more apt to be something that, that happens. But we have plans in place for all of it, and, including town hall, and the ink's not dry on the middle school project yet, because it's a challenge, that building is.
My granddaughter going there
Yep.
next year.
Chief Stewart, if you could, it might be interesting for those of us here and those listening, how are we doing as a town with our drug and alcohol abuse measures to try to,
Yep.
address those as well as we can?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. Right now, we're, probably 3 to 5 years ahead of most surrounding towns.
Awesome.
All of Plymouth County, EB Hope, East Bridgewater Hope, just formed. And all of Plymouth County chiefs have signed into an MOU with them. The only pieces that we had to sign into was that we will share information on if somebody from Whitman overdoses in Scituate. We will put that information in a database, just like they will share somebody from Scituate who overdosed in, Abington. So we get that information. The reason that we're exchanging this information is from there, we can make sure that next day, somebody goes to that person's home, sits down with the family and them, and offers resources. We've been doing that for 3 or 4 years now anyways, with the facts group.
Yep.
And it's been very successful. We have what we call recovery coaches who will go with, plainclothes police officers and go and offer, listen, you want to go to rehab right now? We'll get you in, we'll drive you, we'll do anything we have to do and get them in. And, one of the things that we've realized over the years is that we always felt that while they're out there, obviously, in using, they're a danger to themselves and anybody else that they could come in contact with at times. What we've also learned, though, is a child or a person who's in different stages of recovery, if they start using again, is very susceptible to overdosing. So, at times, some of your, a significant increase in overdoses for that month can also be an indicator of, the amount of people that you have in different stages of recovery. And unfortunately, relapse is considered a stage of that recovery because, a lot of kids do it. And I say kids, but we're talking, young adults into a little older than that. But every member of the department participates in that. If a member goes to an overdose, they have a packet that they can give that family. And, if the person's going to the hospital, the family's kind of interested in getting up to the hospital as well. But we'll follow up that next day and go back and offer resources and services. And, Laura's been involved, and as has Anne Marie Galvin, and we have a peer council location down in Cole Parkway that's open. But the recovery coaches have done a great job, and it's definitely working. You've heard it time and time again. This problem's been probably 20 years at this point, and for the first several years to 10 years, everybody thought that we'll just arrest our police departments, we'll arrest our way out of this. If these kids are using drugs and they're breaking into homes and they're supporting it like that, we'll just hammer them and just continue to, and not that we didn't care, we didn't have the resources to help those families. We didn't know what resources were out there. And, and to tell you the truth, a lot of resources weren't out there compared to now. So I think what we're doing now, if somebody's caught with heroin, are they arrested yet? Yeah. And we've said that time and time again as well, that you can walk in our front door and we'll get your bed, we'll get you help. It's a lot more difficult when you come through our back door and you're part of the system. because now we have the courts involved. A lot of times we have victims of a house break or something like that. So, to try to turn around and take that person, and you can't just forget the crime that they committed, because there is a victim to it a lot of times. And now they have a say in the ultimate disposition. But Hingham Court is up and running with drug court, and it's been very successful in Quincy and other places. There's a number of people that help out with the facts group who have been through that, and that they said that the drug court played a significant role in their ultimately getting through the recovery process. And so,
I mean, following up on Gordon, do you have a gauge sort of whether things have come down in terms of activity, stabilized? Are we seeing an increase?
we have known pretty much
Maybe
everybody
Laura
who's
probably
using,
has an answer for that
who's
too.
addicted to opiates in Scituate. We have their names. And there's even times that without them getting in trouble, if we know who they are, we just go offer the services and try to get them into recovery. And, sometimes that's earth-shattering to the family, because the family had no idea.
No clue.
So, and now you get significant levels of denial, not just from the person, the victim, who now has to fess up from mom and dad,
Right.
but also on the parent side at times. And, Israel says, you don't know what you're talking about, I'm fine. And the parents don't want to believe it. And, unfortunately, sometimes you're back 3 months, 6 months, a year later. And, but like I said, every member of the department gets involved, myself included. I've been involved in many of those even over the last few years. It's hard to put a gauge on whether things are getting better. Are more kids and more people getting involved in the resources that are offered? Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And that's the direction towards ultimately getting through this issue. Is there more heroin? Now it's more fentanyl out there? Yep. And, there's a lot of what we recover now is very little heroin, it's all fentanyl.
Because it's cheaper?
It's not so much cheaper, it's just more powerful. And, now you have, like anything, the crystal meth in the United States, it was very difficult to manufacture. A lot of the precursor drugs that were in items, chemicals that were needed to make that were restricted in the United States. That's kind of how we fought that problem. Well, they're not in Mexico. So it was so difficult to manufacture, crystal meth for this country. Mexican drug cartels took it up, and they have super labs down there that just pump this stuff up. And it's, the quality is so much better than you could buy in this country. Well, they've done the same. They started doing the same with the heroin, but they're doing it with fentanyl. So, and that's a huge problem, the fentanyl, Whereas if somebody was ODing on heroin, we could give them 1 or 2 hits of Narcan.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
5, 6, 8, 14 is the one that most
That brings
recent.
them back?
You just keep giving it till if the alternative is that they're not going to make it, then you just keep giving it to them. It will have no ill effect on them. You can't overdose on Narcan. Eventually, it might catch up to the level of your overdose and, get the attention of your brain and start reversing the effects of it. But there was one, I think it was East Bridgewater or West Bridgewater, it was 14 doses.
Hits from Narcan? Wow.
So,
Does every
Did
cruiser
that work?
Yes.
have
Yes.
every,
yeah, we have what would be the equivalent to 4 hits of Narcan in every cruiser.
Is it a shot or is it how do you do it?
It's a nasal spray
Oh,
now.
okay.
We had the injectable, but the injectable, we had them donated to us, and they were $350 each. So that's, whereas the nasal, we can get from a state grant for, about $20 a piece.
And the
So-
same impact, they have the same effect?
They do. The injectable, you felt more certain with that. I've had instances where the person fell from the overdose. so their nose is all packed with blood. And you're trying to, you know, throw an antihistamine up there, you know,
Right.
a mist, and it's just not going to get up there. So you do what you can and bag mask them after that and things, and, you know. But if somebody has a deviated septum or sinus issues and stuff, it's not a guarantee that you're going to get enough up there to work. And the fire department has the ability to, you know, inject knocking.
Oh, they do.
Well,
So lastly, before I go, though.
yeah, I know,
I
he's got to
do
go. Does
wanna-
anybody have any questions?
You know, I did,
An
I'm
upbeat one now.
going to make dinner.
I have $1 million question.
Yeah?
I sit here totally impressed that in 4 years, you got fulfillment of your dreams. And I've been working on a senior center for at least 11 years.
Yeah.
I just want to know how you were successful, how you banded together, who you got, whether or not you had committees, or, you know, what do you think was the most important thing of
Yes,
putting
so
it
it was.
across?
You know what, we did public information piece to it, where we had video cameras come through, and we would show our old building and the fact that we were non-compliant with Department of Public Health standards in our detention area, in that there was no fixing that in that building.
Right.
And, you know, so we did a little media campaign with it, and I think that was very...
Do that for HIPAA.
It was successful in getting information to people who sometimes otherwise aren't paying much attention to it. And I think when they originally did the building surveys, that of all the buildings that need to be replaced so that they can start prioritizing. And
That helps a lot, yeah.
yeah, we ended up coming out on top of it. And the Chief Brian Stewart at the time, he was kind of surprised to tell me that in the morning after he had a meeting one night, and he says, you know, who came out first in the priorities? It was us. And I said, no kidding. And he said, don't get your hopes up. And I said, well, hold on. And, yeah, so we just let things play out like that, but, you know, we never complained about the facility we had. It was our home. That's, you know, I worked out of there for 34 years, and you know, it's kind of bittersweet. We had one person crying
Really?
over
To
the
leave?
fact that...
Leaving?
Leaving?
No, just for a minute.
Yeah, she was a little upset that she loved her office space and the, you know, the little area that she had. It wasn't an office, it was a hall. But
it was hers.
specialists shared.
It was her hall.
But nonetheless, you know, it was kind of bittersweet to some people, but
Obviously, she has separation anxiety
Yes.
problems.
she's probably sitting at home watching right now, just praying
Well,
that
we
I
don't know
don't
who
say her
she
name.
No names here, yeah.
But one thing I do want to, with tax season, we've been getting hit with scams. Okay, the
Oh, right, yeah,
IRS will
you said,
not call you on the phone like that, okay?
Really?
Yeah, they're not going to call you and tell you that you owe them more money and things like that.
Right.
Don't, you know, report those when they happen, if you get a phone call like that. And the other one that we've been getting hit with a lot is that somebody's grandchild.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
got one of
Yeah.
those. I got one of
Yeah.
those.
Yeah, and that, you know, and it's just,
So people are calling you directly to let you know that they've had that
yeah, we want
experience?
any attempted
That's how
fraud
you
like
know
that.
it's increased in this.
Yeah,
during this time.
and I actually listened to one of the calls, and I just had to start laughing, because they're telling the woman that what you have to do to bail your grandson out, or your family members, or brother in this case, is go to Walmart or Target and get a certain type of card, yeah. And I just started laughing, and they knew that they were being, and, you know, unfortunately, and actually one of the, Sean Harris was on another line listening, one of the board members, and he turned around and says, you know, we're going to find out whose phone this is, and the kid laughed at him and just said, go ahead. I'll have a new phone in a matter of minutes.
Right, right.
So-
But there's been a lot of national news coverage on just this issue, and a lot of local TV coverage. And some of them, there was one this week, and it was on all the local stations. I guess I watched too much TV, but it was not funny like that one. I mean, it was so real.
We've had people lose in Scituate over $10,000 to these scams.
Oh, yeah, people
Because if you
get
give
scared,
money
get
the
scared.
first time,
Right.
they will call back
Oh,
within
of course.
hours
That was
saying
enough.
that it changed, the judge just put another $2,500 because he swore at the judge, or did something like that. And once they have you, they have you.
Yeah.
So, don't,
Yeah, remember, the IRS will only contact you via the mail.
I think I have 6 voice messages
So,
from IRS.
yeah.
All different
Does,
numbers.
does not happen.
And they leave a message?
Yep.
They leave a
Do-
message.
Does not
Yeah,
happen.
it's
It's
all
Because I get
only in the,
12,000.
only via the mail.
phone calls, they never leave a message. I don't answer them if I don't know who it is.
Yeah.
So, but they don't leave a message. I'm sure if I answered 1 or 2 of them, they would
They-
want money from me, but
so,
but
just
I've
if
never
you-
had anybody leave a
Pay
message.
attention, if you hear of anybody, in
Yeah.
you gotta report it, by all means. There's not a lot that can be done. It's very, very difficult to pursue. And, but there are some federal agencies who have the ability to attack this overseas, and, they're interested in knowing what we know. Right.
Very good.
That was
We
great.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief.
Well, thank you for
Look
having me.
forward to our tour.
Yes,
Yeah.
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 We're
And
gonna
I-
come together.
You should
Believe
charge
me,
for the
when-
tours and make a little extra money for that.
When the time comes, we will be very supportive of your building.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chief. All right.
Thanks so much, Mike. Good to see you.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye now.
Very good. Well, why don't we move on here? Has everybody had a chance to take a look at March minutes? And/or please take a look at them.
I have a couple of questions when everybody's finished.
I read them at home, Linda. Thank you for sending them.
You're welcome.
Did too.
Okay?
Audrey, yeah. What do you-
I go one right after another. How do you get certified as an allergen? You said one of the COAs
it's through
certified in
the
allergen?
Department of Health, right?
You know that you have to have for the Board of Health?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you take a course?
The Serve Safe training, I literally went to, as did another volunteer, but the allergen training is done online, yes.
Oh, great.
And then you get certified.
And how many went to the flower show in March 24th?
33,
Wonderful.
That's good.
yes.
Norwell joined you?
Some from Norwell, maybe not too many, but there was a small number that did join them from Norwell. And we used a charter bus.
Great. And your opening day, the hot dogs, did you ever go for that? I thought that was such a great
I
idea.
did miss that day, but I heard it was great. and-
Were they Fenway Franks?
I'm sure. They were. Isn't it
Okay.
the only kind, at least on that
Okay.
day? Yes, and they won, nicely enough.
All right, your May 17th, do you know where that's going to be?
At this point, it is here. It is going to be here.
In the afternoon?
Morning, 10:30. Did I not say that?
Yeah, celebrating the impossible dream.
I knew it'd be quick.
Anybody else have any questions, comments?
Thank you.
Do we have a motion to accept the
I make a
minutes,
motion.
March minutes?
Except the minutes.
Do we have it?
I second.
Okay, thank you, Dale.
Good job, Janice.
Thank
I
you.
have to
Yeah.
compliment you every month.
Absolutely.
'Cause it's not an easy task.
No. Linda, we'll turn over to you.
Okay. All right, thank you. Hello, everyone. I completed and submitted by deadline a grant application to the Scituate Education Foundation for the proposal that we came up with here was a purchase of so many iPads, and then a plan to match, well, first to have training done here, but also then to match the seniors that enter the program with high school students. And not just any high school students, but to actually match them up so that they had a dedicated mentor, so to speak, student mentor, likely, hopefully being the Interact Club that we already have a relationship with, but that was to be determined really yet. But also, so we would pay for we'd pay for the iPads, pay for training, match the students, and then also have ongoing support, because really just that's the biggest hurdle probably is not just the purchase of the devices and the equipment and technology, but really
It's
the
using it.
ongoing
Right,
support. It's
using
not
it.
just even being shown
Right.
once or twice, it's really having someone there all the time. And also to open your eyes to what is available and what can be done. So that would be part of the training as well. A lot of the health resources and online benefit resources and things that are actually functional and valuable to not just seniors in general, but people with certain conditions, and really looking to maybe have some help with some of the things that they might be struggling with or challenged by, and have that student also be aware of their challenges and also help them to meet it. And then maybe there was another thought that we could get some of the middle school kids to come at different times and make it more fun as well once there was a facility. So that's in a nutshell, the proposal, so we'll see. It really came to just under $3,000, so I don't think that was probably a big ask, but we will see.
Who knows,
And
right?
and I think they really were hoping I'd come up with something, so I do think they actually really want to do something with us and to partner with us, so hopefully that's going to happen. So
Can't get it unless we put the
that was-
application in, right? So,
Phew,
thank you.
it was close.
4:45 for a 5 o'clock deadline?
It was a midnight deadline.
Ah,
It
okay.
was 5 o'clock, but
Okay.
it was a midnight deadline on a Friday. So the flower show I was going to mention, we did have 33 people, and we charged them $10 for the bus that we ended up chartering, in addition to what they were paying to get into the flower show. GATRA actually picked up the rest of it, because the cost for the bus was somewhere around 500, I can't remember, and I couldn't find the number, but, so the 33 times 10 was only 330, so they picked up the rest, which was very nice. And
That's a great thing.
it's the first time we tried it, and that we'd do it again. Dinner and game night with the Interact Club we had at the end of March, and it was a fair number of seniors and staff and students that had done that, and really, I know the kids, students, really do enjoy that.
they
And
do
they
enjoy
brought
it.
dinner. I
Yep.
mean, they brought
dinner?
Yeah.
They did, they brought dinner.
Yeah. Yeah, we're back there cooking.
Yeah. And then baseball opening day, yes. I think 15, 16, 17 participants, something like that, which, it's a good number in front of the TV.
It's just fun to get together and have like the whole
Absolutely,
ambience.
absolutely. And, yeah,
Great.
Yep, it was good. There'll be some classes or program planning for summer hiatus, some changes that will come up. So for May and June, maybe not so much, but cardio takes a break. The joint efforts class that actually we pay for through a grant, that's 2 mornings a week. That takes the summer off. So it gets a little quieter. I did, because in May, we're still at St. Luke's, and so one of the yoga classes, it turned out the Maritime Center was open on Monday mornings. So because those who take yoga really like that setting, and we could do it, there was an opening, and they allowed me to take 8 weeks there before the rec department actually takes over the Maritime Center for the whole summer. So we took it. So yay for the Monday yoga classes, they get to be there. And then, as I mentioned later, of course, somewhere we would move over to the community building after the library leaves there. I'll pickleball also, just because it's becoming, more popular, of course, but that changes for the summer as well. And last year, we couldn't get the time we had the previous couple of summers. We ended up with one Friday morning because we have to change from the evenings. But then when the rec department moved in, they had it every day, and then there's no evening because there's no custodian. So we are meeting this Friday with the rec department just to see, because they have use of the Jenkins School gym as well. So anyway, we're not quite sure yet what the scheduled times will be. I assume we'll work something out because we have more support there now, but just as yet to be determined. But hopefully in time for the newsletter, which has to go out Friday.
That's tomorrow, right?
Last summer, Linda, there was no indoor pickleball?
No, we got Friday morning in
Oh, we
the
did.
end, unless it rained and the rec department had to take it over, which had happened once or twice, I think.
Uh-huh.
But, so we did end up with it. The badminton program, however, couldn't. Usually they would have had another time, and they couldn't. They decided to take the summer off just because they had fewer people than they had in the past. But there was a little logistical problem with getting that gym. And it may not be this year, we'll see. The feasibility study, I met with Joel Bargeman, one of the principals of the architectural firm that was hired to do the site
Review.
studies on the properties. So it was much the same as when, I'd been interviewed by Durkee Brown, who had done it for the Building Reuse Committee. But he was very nice, and it was thorough, and it was essentially the same information I was giving him on, design priorities or program priorities or different things that I felt would need to go in, and he was asking those questions as well. So certainly, they are looking to be able to put the best building on the best site for that building. So that is due in June. But I also think there may be some other opportunity or forum opportunity for the public, but as yet I haven't heard that. We have pretty much hired a new part-time driver, which is great. We did let one go, and so we really needed another. So for the future, we will have 4 part-time drivers, 2 regular and 2 variable. And then we also have a couple of drivers that are willing to drive from the school once the summer hits.
Okay.
And it's not that we have more rides necessarily, but logistically, and we could have more, and we could do more trips, and it's just sometimes having enough who are agreeable to the kinds of things we want them to do, and able to do those things, and able to drive all 3 vans, just because the bigger one had been an issue. In the end, it's really all vans. They have more requirements that they have to have passed, physicals and driver training and whatnot, so there's just more to it. So we needed a new one, and he was just going through the last hoop, I think, yesterday, so I believe it's done.
So everybody can drive all the vans?
Yes. He does still have to go through some training, but
Good.
yes. Yep.
I have a question about the school bus drivers that you use. Do they have to go through, I mean...
No. Well, they've done that.
What their training
Right.
covers this training?
Yes. Yes, it did.
Got to be close.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I was,
Yeah.
just curious.
Yep. They're not, there's a certain level that they're not
Different clientele.
They're not
Yeah.
CDL, but they have the same certification. So as of today, I didn't include this in the report, but since it sort of came up about the phone calls people get, the caller ID, we do the broadcast calls from here through our database system. And oftentimes we're told, well, I didn't get that message, because I don't answer the phone if I don't know the number. And then sometimes whether or not they listen to that message, I don't know, but that's because, and we've tried to explain that the system
Right.
that we use comes from a Cambridge phone number,
Right.
and that's the one that pops up, but they didn't like it, so.
So your caller
In a
ID
roundabout
shows...
way, I agreed to do this pilot where our check-in monitor is now containing some advertising, very little at this point, really, but it gave us a little break on our maintenance fee, and also, they said, and also we'll change the number. So it took some months for that to happen, but today, he changed the number. It took 1 minute and 13 seconds. He said, oh yeah, no, it'll just take a few minutes, and that's how long it took. But, so from now on, the number that they see when we're calling with the broadcast call is 8722. So everybody's going to get their calls
So,
now.
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know what our number is ascribed to exactly. I don't know what will come up on the caller ID, but
Not Cambridge.
not
Yeah,
Cambridge.
good.
That was an unknown, which was even
Right,
worse.
yeah, yeah.
Unknown Cambridge.
You don't pick up the phone if you don't sometimes.
Well, we did try to, sort of inform them of
Yeah.
that, but still, they still didn't know the number.
Yeah.
So that's good news. I figured I'd share it. Certification is done for the kitchen. Patrick O'Connor, although really has yet, in fact, to come here, but he is scheduled to come the 3rd Thursday of each month at 10:30 in the morning, just for a general, coffee, chat, discussion. If someone wanted an appointment with him, certainly call, or I think the number will be in the newsletter that people can call his office for a personal appointment.
Is he a rep?
He is the new state senator.
He's replacing Headland, correct?
He replaced Headland, yeah. So, that's good. He's had someone else come the last 2 times who's also, great and brings his concerns to Patrick. And he also agreed to do the men's breakfast in June, the first Monday in
nice.
June, whatever that is, June 3rd maybe.
Do women come to the gym?
Well, you know what, I always say we wouldn't turn them away. We could have a women's breakfast, if.
Just
Try
try.
and let us know.
It's a little bit of work, and actually, I believe we're scheduled for the new Widows Walk. We'd been using Widows Walk Pub anyway with
Yeah.
Jamie, and now.
It's a new
It's new.
spot.
North River Grill, I think.
It's the town owns it and they contract it
Yeah.
out. So 2 women, one of whom had worked there with Jamie anyway, and the other is a chef, 2 Marys. They just opened last Friday.
Yep.
And they did it over a little bit, a nice brighter sort of
Oh, nice.
setting. They took out the island in the middle, which was always a little bit in the way anyway. So they have
Well,
agreed also
okay.
to do the breakfast if we want, and would do actually probably anything that anybody could come up with.
We'll go just to see what it looks like.
Yeah, haven't been to the new North River Grill.
Right, that's right. So Friday night was packed. It was a little more than they had anticipated, actually.
Is it open all day? Free meals?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I think-
Breakfast, lunch, and
Yeah, I
dinner.
think so.
Really?
You can get their menu on their website, and it shows everything.
They're on Facebook. It's a family affair for
Yeah.
sure. They had kids, they had dads, they had, everybody was all hands on deck.
Open 7 days?
Yeah. Yep. A new spot.
Yeah.
Seniorities, so we have completed 3 segments of our program on SCTV. We did an introduction, we did a general overview of social services, just as a,
Because we didn't have Laura with us.
because we didn't yet have Laura with us, that was the first one. And so Laura's up in the next month. We did do outreach with Jenny last time. So Jean for transportation, Laura and Lisa are up in the next month, April and May. So I don't know if anyone's seen it yet or has any comments, but, it's okay. John
I
makes
saw
it.
the first one, but I haven't seen the others. Are they playing now?
Well, there is
Yes.
You should be able to go to,
You can Google the Scituate
just as you
Community
could
TV.
here.
yeah, Scituate TV or YouTube
And
or,
then you can pull it up?
yeah. I think
But it's
so.
on Channel 9 as well, but I don't know the schedule. Senior tax work-off, well, I've placed actually a couple of more people, one of whom the treasurer collector's office needed a new one, which was great, but the others are coming here, so we're finding some work for them to do. One we're sharing with the health department, she's a nurse, so we'll see. I still have 2 or 3 that haven't been placed, so we really are a little bit maxed, and I just thought, we can probably do things we haven't been able to do or a little bit overburdened, to attempt, so we're going to try to use that volunteer help and see how that goes.
Okay.
Let's see. So I do have budget to talk about. I'll just sort of finish this quickly and go through the other reports too. I did attend a focus group on March 23rd with Joan Machino, speaking of another politician who's new. She's a state rep for Hull, Hingham, and
Yeah, North Scituate,
That's
right.
why we were there, right, North
Right.
Scituate for Brad. So it was very nice. It was a collection of other COAs and sort of health-related people that they had invited. JD came, Laura came, and she was asking for our assessment of things and concerns we might have, and everybody was pretty consistent, I think, in what they brought to the table or wanted to talk about. Property tax burdens, housing, caregiver and client needs, those
Yeah,
are things that came up.
transportation, et cetera, et cetera.
Transportation.
Yep.
So she seems very open and available, and I think she'll be great. So we can use her as another resource, too. We did not see a lot of her predecessor, but still, she's a small part of Scituate, but still. Jim does come on the 4th Friday of the month, generally speaking, so he is available to people, and she would be. I already mentioned, too, the use of the community building, Pier 44, should come available to us in June. That's what we're planning on. St. Luke's will end at the end of May. The library is supposed to vacate throughout May, and move into their building in 3 weeks or 4 weeks if they're lucky. So we will at least have the space there to start, and then we'll see how it looks and
What needs to happen?
what evolves from that. But also, more importantly, really, is what happens in June when the feasibility study is reported to the Board of Selectmen, and then from there, how fast any movement could be had that might get us, I mean, I think it's ambitious to think maybe we could go to special town meeting, but you never know. So we'll see what they have come up with and what people have to discuss at that point. And then I do want to mention again, I mentioned it last time, an upcoming event that I'm just so pleased to have, and that came to us through a referral, but author Herb Crehan is joining us for a Cafe Talk presentation. It's May 17th here for now, just because, well, I didn't know at the time whether we'd have the community building or where else we could do it. So we have the technology. He'll have a presentation. He's talking about his book. He's got stories. He's friends with Jim Lonborg. We'll see. So we thought we'd do the talk in the morning and then have a reception afterwards where people could stay and just sort of talk about America.
Talk baseball.
Talk baseball.
Yeah.
Nothing like it. Jean's report, actually, you might notice that the list, she's breaking it down, I guess, a little bit more for us in terms of what people are getting rides for, which is nice. She did mention today, after she'd already done the report, that March almost doubled compared to February, which turns out is, well, naturally normal. But then she went back and looked at last year's, and the numbers were almost identical, that it had doubled, and it was about the same number last March as this March, which is interesting. Going back to the budget too, and just the idea that, we have so much money to spend, and thus far, the last 3 years since I've been here, we've spent it, but we haven't overspent. So we've been able to stay within budget, so not sure if we did increase how that would look to us, or if we'd run out of money in May. But the numbers, again, at least are consistent and good. And people are, I think, happy.
How about,
Annual budget?
101,000 comes from GATRA, or through GATRA, I guess I should say.
so do we see a slowdown in January?
Yes.
Okay.
January.
So January and February are
Yes.
slow, and March picks up? Okay.
Yeah. Jenny's report for outreach, again, the you know what, I forgot Lisa's. What was yours? So activities and trips, she includes some numbers there, and of course, you know the difference between duplicated and unduplicated.
No.
So duplicated means the number of check-ins. If you look at total event sign-ins, the number of check-ins when people walk in the door and use their scan card, or we input the information that 30 participants came to this. But remember, the same person could come to 15 things. So the actual unduplicated number is how many seniors or people, individuals, were checked in during the month. Doesn't matter how many things they came for. So if they came
So
for...
the 254 came 3 times for various things,
Exactly, more or less, right?
or 4 times, but,
Something like...
yeah.
So I'm trying to look for a good, so for cultural, that's the same. So there must have been one thing, or for whatever reason, 31 people signed in one time. So that's an even number, but usually for the fitness and exercise, we have 318 incidences of participation for 81 people. So that's someone going to yoga 4 times, and they might also do something else. So the unduplicated is just the number of seniors. And also, if you look toward the bottom, for volunteers, receptionist, front desk, so 144 hours were spent during the month at the front desk for us with volunteers, which is great. When I do the report, the annual report for the state, we attribute a dollar value to that, and so that's somewhere like $2,000 that we would have had to pay somebody to sit at the front desk. So that's nice, and the rest goes for the other volunteer activities. I guess there's only 4 for that right now, but indispensable bread pickup and Panera, which we limped through while Betty was in Florida for 3 months. But I only forgot once. I did forget once. But
Is anyone doing the Shaw's pickup now? I see sometimes there's some Shaw's bread over there when I come for my class.
Yes, they do the Shaw's pickup on, I think it's Monday morning. Okay, and...
So that's figured into the 29 hours?
There was a special one for supermarkets.
Oh, okay.
Right, supermarket pickup is 8 hours, bread pickup.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting, I don't actually quite know how,
Seems,
She broke it down.
well, 8 hours seems right, if it's 4 times a month for 2 hours, that's right. So, Jenny's report.
Did you run out of fuel? Remember one year, the fuel assistance? They seem to, no.
I don't think so.
No,
That was
and this
not-
was
not
a
this year.
relatively,
No, she's good.
mild year for us
Yeah.
in terms of, having people, no emergencies. And actually, even if there was an emergency, Jenny would help funnel them right to Social Community Action Council. And there is that status where they could have it quickly or more quickly. But I didn't have any issues or problems.
Great.
And we were good. Our pipes didn't freeze. I mean, there's a dozen times this winter we had to leave the water on and the doors open, and just because they were afraid the pipes would freeze. They didn't. So then Jenny's report for outreach, interactions 50. So again, duplicated oftentimes. The same person might come in multiple times for different services. Shine is still busy, funny enough. Medicare, not just open enrollment, which was October through December, so even through the winter, he has had steady weekly appointments.
does Norman still come?
Yep.
Yep.
I have yours, maybe.
Yeah, we hope,
I had 2.
I had one today. Nope, we hope we never lose him. We should start training someone else, but
We need Norm.
We need,
well, actually, we should have Norman training someone else.
oh, we should have Norm full-time.
So we didn't necessarily, well, of course, Laura introduced herself, and most of you do know her. Laura Manier, our social services manager, social worker for the town, working with us, of course, the Council on Aging, as well as the Department of Health. But as we rotate through staff, and they're agreeable to sort of giving you their report and giving you an opportunity to ask them a few questions about their role. So here she is.
Thank you. So would it be helpful for me to explain my role more broadly, or does everyone at this point know?
No,
Okay.
you got an audience,
Okay.
TV audience.
All right, so I was originally hired following not the last couple years, but several years back when we had many years of nasty storms, and the storm shelter had to open at the high school. And through that, I think it was the former police chief and the town administrator recognized that there were a lot of social service needs going unmet. And so this was sort of the creation of the position. And originally, I think, focused exclusively on at-risk seniors in the community. It has since developed to cover anyone who's not covered by a school social worker. So I'm now under both the Health Department and the Council on Aging, and I really cover anybody who has a social service need not covered by the schools. So it's kind of a broad umbrella and a variety of stuff that I do, but really a lot of it is around support for people who need concrete resources, mental health resources, and then if there are substance use issues, I usually refer to my office mate and collaborate with her on, she's the Scituate FACS coordinator. So there's a lot of collaboration that goes on with a lot of different groups in town. So specifically for the Council on Aging, I think you all have the report. So interestingly, in the direct work that I do with individuals and families who are 55 and up, my numbers have gone down significantly for this quarter compared to last year. So I was running some data and I was trying to figure out what it was, and it doesn't look like the referrals have changed or anything like that. I think part of it might be that Jenny has been in her role now the same amount of time that I have. I think she's taking on a lot of the complex cases because she can, and she's really good at it. So I've closed a bunch of cases that were pretty big last year, so that could be part of the reason. But I currently, last quarter, had 25 clients on my caseload. So that's not one-time calls where people need information or they just need a referral. That's people who I carry on my caseload. And we'll keep them open until those services have been met, the things that they need have been met. And that the types of issues I'm dealing with are the same as last year, so it's elder at risk, working with protective services out of South Shore Elder Services. I have an MOU with them, so when things come up, we do get permission, but we are able to connect with each other more easily than we would otherwise. Homelessness and folks who are at risk of losing housing is a big issue. Mental health, as I mentioned, help with food, advocacy, legal assistance. Those are all kind of the hot topics that I work with. So I will be kind of keeping an eye on the numbers and curious to see if it bumps back up in the next quarter, and I'll certainly keep you posted. So the other thing I work on is the Scituate Hoarding Response Team, and I wanted to just take a minute. I've had a couple of questions come to me over the last couple weeks and months about why the town is taking on this issue in the way it is. So if I could kind of use this as a platform to talk for just a minute about that. Hoarding is a mental health condition diagnosed in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, which comes out by the American Psychiatric Association. Its prevalence is roughly 2 to 5% of the population, so that's 15 million people. So to put that into perspective, there's I think 5.5 to 6 million living with Alzheimer's. So it's fairly prevalent. And what we've realized here, especially with working in the health department, is that there were virtually no resources in the South Shore available to people who were having difficulties with hoarding. So we as a task force came together. We're mostly municipal officials. The only other person who's part of the task force who's not in the municipality is somebody from Protective Services at South Shore Elder Services who will consult with us and advise us. And then we also sort of have an honorary member, Suzanne Atta, who is the clinician who leads some of the support groups that we facilitate. So just this past Tuesday, we held an event called Helping the Helpers, Supportive Approaches to Decluttering, and that was led by myself and Suzanne. And it was a small audience, but I think we had a really good discussion afterwards. And it was really meant for people who are in a helping role, whether that's a family member, somebody in the health department in another town. There were folks from the Weymouth Health Department were there, and individuals who, family, friends, neighbors who are trying to help somebody who is struggling with hoarding and clutter.
And it's to help them understand what they're dealing with.
Yes, and it was really to give them strategies and tools that they can use. So I think we tried to give some concrete support to them. We also have 2 new clutter reduction skills groups that started. Those are closed groups. They're facilitated by the clinician Suzanne. We are hoping to have more in the fall when our next round of grant funding comes out. And those are filled. We have a 10-person max to those, and they've always been very popular, and it's open to people outside of Scituate as well. Really draws in the South Shore community. There's a 3rd group starting, and this one is open, so if there are people who are interested in attending this group, it's starting, was starting next Wednesday, but we're actually pushing it back a week. And that's going to be co-facilitated by a person who is trained to facilitate, who has lived experience. So that facilitator struggles himself with clutter and is working through the process of learning how to manage it, as well as a clinician. So the 2 of them are going to co-facilitate it. So that one is open, so if anybody is interested who would like to participate, please give me a call. So that's the hoarding response team. Emergency preparedness, we did use the storm wellness list for that storm that we had in March. So the storm wellness call list is a list that we maintain here at the Senior Center, has about 85 individuals who we would have concerns about during a storm. And we give them a call, make sure they have all the up-to-date information that we get fed from the fire department and everybody involved in emergency management. And we either do depending on timing, we either do a robocall and then follow up with some personal calls, or we call everybody individually, which we've done for some storms as well. So friendly visitor program, I have a little bit of an update from what you all have. We completed a training with 5 volunteers on January 20th. We have more volunteers that are going through the training on April 25th. And the first match was made, and we are hoping that those folks will
lasting
be
one.
meeting up soon. And hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll have all the matchups for the first few volunteers that have been trained.
Great.
So it took a long time, but I think we're finally getting there.
And how many people are in that program that requiring visitors?
So we have half dozen.
What that list is, yes,
Yeah.
it's 6 or 7.
Yeah, we have a few. We're trying to find appropriate matches now. So we know we have half the volunteers trained and train the other half and try to make good matches.
Laura, sorry,
Yeah.
going back to the hoarding,
Mm-hmm.
how do you find the people? Do they readily come and say, I have a problem, or? Is that
So
difficult?
it
How does that
varies. So
work?
some of the people that are in the groups are trying to avoid eviction, and their court order says that if they're in a support group, they can't be evicted, as per court agreement. So that not many, but we have a few of those, which is great, because if we can keep somebody from getting evicted from their home, we want to do it.
Evicted because of hoarding?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the health condition,
yeah.
the condition of the
The
home,
house.
the
From like an
safety.
apartment?
The house.
Correct.
Not like
Health
Not
department.
health department.
You can really
Yeah.
walk in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's different because we do have people from outside of Scituate. So sometimes we'll have folks from cities like Weymouth or Quincy who are just in a regular apartment unit facing eviction. And if they can get the court to approve an agreement where they're in a support group, they can sort of work on it and try to get the volume down so that they meet standard requirements. So that's a smaller percentage. Very often, usually people who seek treatment, because a lot of people don't seek treatment, but for people who do seek treatment, it's about the age of 50 when people go and ask for help. And we don't, especially on the South Shore, we don't have clinical providers, and so support groups are really the best and only option for them. So a lot of people who are seeking help find the support groups because there aren't the clinicians who really have a good background in how to treat hoarding. So, yep.
In the social, I was going to say the social elder services, they can't help them if they're not 60. If you-
Correct.
If they're
Yeah,
not
Correct.
60?
yeah.
So there's a
Yeah.
gap
The
there
hoarders,
between
they
50
have
and
to wait
60.
10 years.
Yeah.
That's a lot
Yeah.
of stuff to hold.
Yeah.
So for people who don't come forward and say, I have a problem, I mean, obviously you don't go knock on someone's door and say, your yard's a mess, your house is a mess, do you need help? How do you get that first
I don't
entry
imagine
Yeah.
they would be coming.
So what typically happens is we usually get the health department will usually field a complaint or a concern. And so we as a task force have developed a protocol where we really try to figure out for each case, which is so different. Everybody who struggles with hoarding has different factors and vulnerabilities that cause the problem, and so we really have to take it case by case. And so what we typically do is we come together as a group and consult, talk about what we know about the situation, and then one of us will sort of be point person to try to reach out to the person. If somebody calls the Board of Health, it's usually the health department director who has to reach out with at least a letter, and then we'll kind of reassess from there. Yep. Anything else?
So, but it could be a neighbor or a family member who's concerned and is
Correct.
picking up the phone and calling in.
Correct. Yep. Yep.
I think one of the impetuses for the task force was that there's often an entry point, whether it's the fire department, the police department, because they've been there for some other reason, the health department because they've had a complaint, or sometimes through Laura,
it's a
or
fire
people have stopped in here and said, my neighbor is, who do I call?
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
Yep.
so then we share or figure out the protocol, who's next in line to get the information.
So the other thing I wanted to mention is that, I don't know if you all are familiar with the SANS resource book. It came out a couple of years ago, and it just listed all the resources available to people in Scituate. It's a couple years old now. Before SANS, it was called the Cross Book. Same thing. It was just a book of resources that we would give out to anyone and everyone who wanted to know what was available. So it's time for us to update that, and I'm working with a couple of folks, Kim Stewart and Anne-Marie Galvin, who we are doing an update of that book, so that should be out hopefully in the next couple of months.
Where do you get this resource book?
So we
Before it's
have them at different town departments. I mean, I think there were a handful of SANS books here. I know they had some at the police department, the fire department, so it's usually at departments, and I know.
Well, they were dwindling because it was old enough so that
Yeah.
there weren't new copies around. We had a couple, maybe.
St. Vincent de Paul hands them out when they're working with a client as well, so I think we try to get them into.
So that's not something that every Scituate citizen receives?
No.
No. No. The fire department smoke installation program, I think, Linda, you mentioned that in this report or your last report? that we-
Last report, I believe,
Yeah.
yes, the safety inspections.
So that is continuing. We still have many folks who we would like to link up with the fire department. It's a great collaboration, and thankfully, we've had some generous donations that we can kind of keep the program going, which is excellent. And then the monthly caregiver support is still going strong. We have a small group, it's about 6 people a month, and usually the same people, but it's a really nice group for anybody who is looking for a caregiver support group. It does focus a lot on Alzheimer's and dementia, but it is a general caregiver support group, so I want to make sure that people who have other things going on feel comfortable coming to that group. It's a lovely, lovely group of people.
And this meets at St. Mary's?
St. Mary's, the third Wednesday of the month, from 12 to 1. And that's it.
Anybody have any questions for Laura?
If you get a phone call from my wife saying my husband is a boarding call, my desk is not the most neat in the world. Disregard the phone call.
Join the club. It's hard to listen and not relate it right to yourself. It's hard, you know, we all.
Thank you, Laura.
Sure.
Thanks
great.
very much. Good to have you.
You keep them
with us.
busy.
Yep.
Okay, so Linda, you want
So
to,
I can pass.
should we
this, I
pass
guess.
along?
Yeah, do you mind passing these down 1, 2, 3, 4?
Are we taking
Budget.
the top one or all of each?
Just, it's a double set, it's double.
So everybody takes.
So pass that
Here,
down.
there's not enough. I don't need it.
That's
So I've got-
yours.
I've got.
Yeah.
Oh, you've already separated.
One of each?
Yes.
No, just a package.
Grab the top.
Well, there's a stapled copy of the objectives and a single page for the budget numbers. So these are the line items that are approved by the Board of Selectmen, and that happened in March. So you have some numbers there for the salaries, and then moving on to the simple line items: electricity, natural gas, repairs and maintenance, rentals and leases, support services, conferences, training, and then mileage reimbursement. Those are the standard, office supplies under that and cleaning supplies, all standard line items for us. What doesn't show there anymore used to be transportation, but that became a revolving account for GATRA just because it is exactly that. It's money goes in, money goes out. And also postage, they combined that line item instead for all departments under the town budget, so it just comes out of one revolving account, and no longer do we manage our own single line item. So, you know, the salaries covers, obviously, myself. Laura is only 40% of regular salaries, along with me, and then Jean Sullivan, who's full-time as well. Then we have part-time salaries for Jenny and Jill. And Lisa, in fact, is on the formula grant completely for her 25 hours. We pay for that through the state, and that's been since 2014 that, well, actually 2013, right before I arrived, it was approved. And so we had someone first, we've been without someone, and then we've had Lisa now for a good 2 years. I did get, and one of the biggest changes, it's not really reflected here, but I was able to get Jill 10 hours more so that she'll become full-time, but we're paying for those 10 hours through the formula grant. But still, she gets more vacation time and whatnot, so there's still benefits involved, and it does impact the budget slightly, but that was very nice for us. I've been trying to do that for a while, and
Absolutely.
we need her, and she wanted it, and it was good timing. So electricity, natural gas, those we struggled with a bit because it's really gone up in both cases. So you could say I have $3,000 for electricity. Well, and even though I spent more in 2016, where I guess we were just hoping to contain it, gas, we're covered. So sometimes if one falls short and the other doesn't, obviously, it doesn't have to come out of that line item strictly, as long as the whole budget can cover what we've allocated. Repairs and maintenance.
Was that kitchen? Was it repairs and
No.
maintenance? Was that the
Gosh, why do I
dishwasher?
not know what that is?
So is the
A lot.
last column?
Oh,
the
no, you know what
approved?
that is? That's crazy. You know what that is? Sorry, I knew this before, that is trash pickup.
Repairs and maintenance.
Trash, gosh, I might need my notes. Yeah, I do think that's primarily trash pickup. Maintenance, that's maintenance, yeah. Repairs and maintenance. Basically, that's what we do. Rentals and leases is...
Is cleaning?
Cleaning is cleaning supplies, not cleaning like we pay for. No, we don't pay for cleaning, we clean, or we do have a small, well, we do have the library custodian comes here most mornings for a half an hour, I assume, in the morning, and does some vacuuming and cleans the bathrooms and takes out the trash. We do have that, but otherwise, no. Cleaning supplies and office supplies are the materials line items. But the rentals and leases, we do pay for a Ricoh copier lease, and we do pay for the filtered water, and we do pay for Comcast is our support services, so that's the internet that we pay for. So all those are monthly. Some of them are standard, most are standard, except the trash pickup is not standard, and it's just been rising and rising and rising. And we did talk about maybe trying to put that onto the town
Yeah.
instead, but they don't have the kind of truck that could do that. And also, where would you put the trash while it piles up for a week? Because they would take their dumpster. So believe it or not,
Yeah.
logistically, it really
That would-
boiled down to, we kind of had to
Need to
keep
have
it.
the dumpster there.
And literally, that is what it's costing us. That is the highest thing we pay for right now. And I mean, and we do have trash, even if you look in the kitchen now, we do collect.
Sure.
For sure. Conferences and development, though we probably use that to a degree, I get a lot of that from the formula grant as well. So a lot of the formula grant really offsets this budget greatly. So this is the absolute essentials for what runs the building, the operations, but you know, the formula grant steps in. We're doing the newsletter through the formula grant. We do, you know, a lot of the training, my conference in October through the formula grant. Salaries, as I've
Formula
mentioned.
grants?
Hmm?
50,000?
$10 per elder.
Right.
And we're still working off of the 2010 census, so
So
we have
42 or
43.
43,000. Okay.
43,000 this year, and 43,000 next year, because they're not going up another dollar. The last 3 years, it's been raised by $1 per elder
Right.
each year, so it went from, obviously, 8 to 9 to 10. It's going to be 10 next year. It will be 10 next year, which is fine. That's a good amount of money. For the formula grant as well, we offset or supplement, well, right now, I actually increased it this past year to do the balance class, because that originated through a grant, but then that grant was, you know, only for a certain amount of time. So then I put it on the formula grant. So we take a couple of donations for both that and the joint efforts exercise, the gentle exercise, but generally speaking, the 3,000, we guarantee the instructors, is taken from the formula grant. And we also have been doing that with Zumba also. So, and equipment, that was the one thing that, well, it looks like it went up, $2,000. That's what it will take for us to get onto the new phone system that Town Hall has, and we really need it, but we'll just sort of piggyback on that, it's fine, you know, that it's just what it costs to get us to do that, and I haven't seen it yet. They really just implemented it about 2 months ago in Town Hall, so hopefully we will get that soon. There was some question, obviously, I wasn't in a rush because we didn't want to do it twice, but if we're staying here, of course, we need the new phone system, so that's what that money is for.
So can I just ask?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is the last column here what was approved?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the actual. So down the bottom there, the 221,000, that's our municipal budget for these line items.
That's been approved?
Mhm.
Okay.
221, 159?
Mhm.
Okay.
And what's the fiscal year end?
When does it end?
Yes.
June 30th.
Okay. Okay, so you've already had some of this, that's why the revision is your costs move. You start moving some of your original budget.
It goes through,
Yeah.
yes, so that second to last column, yeah.
Mhm.
In some cases, that may be what I requested, and then what got
Got
tweaked, yes.
Yeah.
So a quick math exercise tells me that the town is spending $45 per senior in this town
Uh-huh.
per year.
That was quick math.
As compared to $10,000 or $12,000 per student.
Ah, wow.
Well, I suppose we could add the $10 per elder from the formula grant, so now we're up to 55. That's a good picture.
Very good pick. Yeah, very good point.
So then if you're interested too, and you certainly don't have to read it all now, but at least you now have it if you're interested, this is what we do every year for the budget.
I have a question. Where was the gift, the line items for the gift and donation?
Oh, I did that last year, so that's not part of the budget.
Yeah, but why is it not on this budget?
Because that was not part of my budget process, so I didn't include that. Sorry. I can bring that up just like I did last year, but
Please
it's...
do, yeah. I think it's important. It's a lot of money.
We have a revolving account, the program's revolving account, which revolving is that money goes in, and a lot of what we do here is match, so instructors get paid, participants pay, and then that money goes directly to the instructor. We're not making any money on that, we're not taking any percentages. A class like the Lifelong Learning Bob Jackman class, $20 per person, most of it goes to him. He gets that money, but he kindly decided that at a point, that's all I need. If we can get more than those people, then you can keep that money, so that sometimes happens. As I mentioned with the formula grant, I'm trying to supplement and not necessarily make all classes free, but minimize what they're paying and really just asking for donations. But the instructors that we have oftentimes need a guarantee of a certain amount of money, so making it paired with how many participants. If only 3 people come and they're making $15, that's not enough. So instead of having the price go up. So now it's not quite as turnkey as perhaps it was in the past, if we can play with that a little bit. So that's some of the... We also do get donations still, not an awful lot anymore, but some do come in, and that usually goes into the program account unless they want it in the transportation account. And also money does come in to the transportation account as donations or fees. That's a little bit different now. We always ask for donations. GATRA has requested that we make at least the local ridership sort of count per rider, so we are charging a very small fee to match their fees.
1 or 2 or...
It was $1 a ride, and now it's $1.50, well, it's $1.25, pardon me, $2.50 a ride. Unless they buy a 10-ride pass, which actually works for us and works for them. So that's gotten a little complicated. For out-of-town rides, that's different. The out-of-town rides are much more expensive. We're not matching those. We're not asking the riders to pay for what that costs us. We've always called it a donation, made a request. We just now we're leaving it as a donation, but really just trying to cover a little bit more. So we might say a $25 monthly pass, which we may still offer. So it doesn't really match per ride. When we try to report to GATRA, we've had this many people ride, but we're not necessarily taking in the money, to match that. But that's okay, because that's okay. So rides out of town might run, I guess the least expensive ride is maybe $6, let's say, to Norwell or Hanover Medical. But some people go into Boston, some people do something 3 days a week to Weymouth or Boston.
Yep.
Now we're talking $55 a trip times 3, times 4 weeks in a month, you know what I mean? And they might give us a $25 monthly donation. So that's a difference there.
Yeah.
So that account is a little more variable.
So that's a different budget.
But that is a different budget.
The 101 that you...
Yeah. And Dale
Yeah.
referred to a gifts and donations budget, which frankly, I don't really use. I don't
Right,
actually
but
get that.
if I'm remembering correctly, there's about $35,000 in that?
Well, we went-
I don't have it.
We
It's
went through
quite
that
a bit of
last year.
money.
I did provide it last year. I don't
I know,
have that.
but
in
I don't
front
think
of
it
me.
was that much.
I don't
Well,
remember.
I think it should be provided,
think
and
it's
I'm sure
more.
that, you know.
I would be
well,
happy to, I just didn't think of it because this is the
big chunk
budget.
of money.
This is the budget I deal with. So if there's no other questions, the
Does anybody have any
department...
questions on any of this?
So the narrative part, and you might be interested in some of it, so I submit goals and objectives each year to the town administrator. So they're...
She accepts the
She accepts them. Yep, she's good. So, in a nutshell, initiating activities and events aimed at promoting an age-friendly and dementia-friendly communities. That is an initiative we're really interested in, and it's something that is happening in different communities. And the idea is not just using maybe our own programs, but also going out into the community and maybe providing, which has yet to be done, but providing maybe training for the merchants or, you know, different partnerships in the community to understand more about what people that are aging are dealing with and some of those challenges in dementia in particular. But, you know, in age-friendly, as the Economic Development Committee, for instance, considers certain things and changes downtown, you know, are there enough benches? We've sort of resolved the transportation issue, which is wonderful for Scituate. That's part of an age-friendly community, and I think we're doing a good job there. But there's other things, certainly, as we look at designing the community, making it more walkable and different things. So that's something I'm interested in doing. The monthly SCTV program, we're a little bit ahead of schedule on that, which is good. Additional outreach strategies for reaching new cohorts of seniors who don't come in, that's certainly always a goal. So we try to get more specific with some of our strategies for doing that and some of our efforts. And then lastly, continuing to advocate for appropriate senior center space, which should be ongoing and hopefully close. So the budget components, that might be interesting. Those are just the categories. Programming, obviously, in terms of what we spend. And oftentimes, you know, we do a luncheon. We don't just arbitrarily charge an amount of money, but we're certainly not saying, well, we're spending this on the catering, so we're going to charge that. I mean, we really just make it a nominal fee and just do our best, and that will often come out of programs, and that's where I use that cash. Try to be judicious, but I do use it.
These grants certainly help.
It's amazing, yeah, and we've had some unsolicited grant, you know, which wasn't a ton of money, but it just gives me a chance to think about what we could design that would be useful. The risks and challenges, so that might be, you know, that's, nobody's surprised at any of those when you read those. And then the accomplishments for last year, that's something that you might enjoy reading and remembering.
You can make it feel good.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't read this, but I'd like to say, I'd like to have everyone take a look at this and maybe think about how they can help on any of these things, and maybe we
Sure.
can bring it up on discussion
Sure.
next week, next
Yes.
month, so.
Yep. I did have some thoughts, and we talked about it briefly, but maybe next meeting. Been trying to sort of, and I've got some help from my tax work-off person at this point to try to organize some documents, but for new members, and some of you have been this year, and of course you've all been in the last few years, but documents to give you a good overview that are organized and you receive via binder. And then also some committees that people can volunteer to be part of that we need help with, whether it's marketing and promotions or bylaws review, which, you know, when we were trying to figure out whether we could have 9 people on this committee last year, the confusion on whether it was the town bylaw or the COA bylaw or there was another document somewhere, and we really could use a good document that we can refer to that reflects both what the town requires of a Council on Aging board and also what we'd like that we can work with. So those are some ideas too for next time.
Well done.
So put,
A lot of work.
yeah, put your thinking cap
Oh, yeah.
on, ideas are welcome.
You can also read, so I don't think it's out yet, I haven't been informed that the town book came out. You know, every year they do the town annual report. So there's, the last 2 years, there's been something in there from us. So that sort of reflects the year's work. That was,
That's right,
I don't think,
Yep.
I haven't seen
I
it.
think I just saw a notice about it coming out.
Really?
It should be out.
but you
pretty
submitted something to that,
Yes.
I know, so.
I did, that was in January, I
Yeah.
think, or February. So hopefully it makes sense, and believe me, I'm fine with questions. It's, you know, the budget, it's gotten easier. It certainly has gotten easier for me to do that. It's not an awful lot. Not an awful lot that you can play with here, but, and I'll try to remember, I'll actually can give you a copy of the formula grant next time, too, if you're interested.
These are extras? Okay. Does anybody have any questions? That's great. I think it's good for people to see that.
Well, you should, yeah. You all should.
These are extra copies.
Joan is in here too.
Yeah, Joan's not here, so maybe we'll go right to Elaine on Commission of Disability.
Pardon me, Joan did tell me that she
Yeah.
did not have a meeting, and she was not feeling well.
Yep, I saw her last night. Also, she said she didn't have any updates because she had them wrong.
The Commission on Disabilities have been fairly active lately which is really good, and being recognized as being part of the community. Thank you very much, Janice. We have worked with the fire chief. He had requested help in updating the form that they have related to functional needs and accessibility that they have on file at the fire department. So in case of an emergency, if they were going out to that home or multiple homes, they would have an idea of what was needed. The form that they have is significantly vague and non-specific. So we have come up with a much more specific. We kind of borrowed something from the state of Rhode Island, and we're developing that, and we're going to meet with the chief to see if this is going to meet with his approval. And then his goal was to have it be online, and people will be able to fill it in online, which has been part of my problem because I've been trying to make it with checkboxes and stuff like that. My computer skills are not the greatest, but we're getting there. We're getting there. Another thing that has come up just while we were talking about the updating on the form and everything, I had a personal experience with the town of Hull, and they had this wonderful file of life. I don't know what you call it.
The file of life.
Yeah. And I said, well, this thing is wonderful. And I was explaining to another member of the commission, and she said, I've never heard of that. And we're both fairly new on the board. So she called, it comes from the Plymouth District Attorney. She called them. They said, well, we gave it to the Council on Aging, but here, we're going to send you as many as you want. And so then we came back, and what I'm getting to is communication, ongoing communication. It was presented to our commission several years ago, before either one of us had been on the commission, so we weren't aware that the town even had it. And I know that the Council on Aging has them here.
And we talk about it a lot, but you would have to be here.
Right, you know, and it's not
So
just.
can I hop
Well,
back?
we put it in our
elderly.
newsletter. I mean,
What is the file of life?
So it's a card that
document.
people put onto their refrigerator.
Okay, yeah,
It has
okay.
all the medical
Yep,
information.
yep,
It's the
yep,
first thing
okay.
that's
It's
required.
an awesome.
I could probably put my hands on it
Yes.
because it's a magnetized
For emergency
thing.
information.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
phenomenal. It's got
Yeah.
contact
Got everything,
information,
yeah.
physician
Yep.
information,
The
medications,
idea
all that
is
sort of
it's the
stuff.
first thing the fire department, the EMTs would see
Yeah,
when they walk
sure.
in your house because it's right there.
Yep.
It's just that, you know, Council on Aging having it is the most important part, probably, the most utilized age group, but there are a lot of people in town who are not in the aging population that, you know, so
Could benefit.
we could, you know, I just think that, and the fact that the two of us on the commission didn't have a clue that Scituate had it, it is nobody's fault. It's just, it needs to be published more.
So we give it to
Wow.
every new client we meet. Anytime we have a new intake, every single person we meet gets it.
Good.
Maybe it can be in
Well,
your
that's
seniorities.
awesome, but, you know, I mean,
Sure.
I'm not really disabled, but it would be good for me to have this on my refrigerator
Yeah.
and a sticker in my window. I didn't know that they were available in Scituate. I knew they were available in Hull because I had a personal issue there. I'm just saying that the communication and publication of all of these things needs to be more broad and more repetitive. So, you know, it's come out, you know, repeated not monthly, annually, you know, did you get your file of life? Do you know what it is? That type of thing. But it was just an eye-opening experience for us when we said, oh, we're going gonna do this wonderful thing for the town of Scituate. What do you mean, we already did it? And we did it years ago. I said, oh.
Could always put a blurb in the newsletter occasionally, could always
Yeah.
put a notation in the news stands.
Good
Kind of
idea.
rotating.
But again, it needs to be more broad than just the Council on Aging. Because there are a lot of people in town who are disabled. I have grandsons that are like that, one of them I couldn't
might be good
possibly
for
fit
your
the
article in
information
the
on the
Narrative.
sheet, but
Yeah.
we should have it available.
Yeah.
And-
Well, I assume there's another way for for the EMTs, let's say it's a younger person who has an allergy and is having that sort of a reaction, there's another way for them to know that, I think. I'm just saying, it's,
Well,
there are
you would think so, but my
indicators.
grandchildren have been in town for a long time, and we had no idea, none, that this was available. And one of my grandchildren is a double lung transplant, who it's really important that the
Sure.
fire department would know all of this.
Yeah.
And, oh, wow, okay.
We need to
Would
get-
you want
get
Hal
to-
has it, no, I have, oh, we
Get
got
into
some.
schools, get into, okay.
We have
Um,
a town meeting coming up in a couple of weeks, there will be probably 350, 400 people there. You know, there are always tables out front before you walk
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
Oh,
Maybe-
really?
Maybe we could
Yeah.
have some there.
Awesome,
That's a
awesome,
great
awesome.
idea.
I just, it just makes the idea of communication so important, and the need for it to be so broad is so important. And I don't know how we totally address that, but I just wanted to bring it up as something that,
That's a good idea.
you know.
Well, that being liaison on the board now, that's a big step forward. We
Well, that's
never
what
had a
somebody, that's what
I've been-
somebody said to me at the commission. Well, you're a liaison to the Council of Aging, why don't you know it?
But I'm being,
Well, I've only been there a year.
Elaine, I'm being quite serious.
No, I know.
We never had a liaison.
Oh, okay. I
But now
didn't
we do.
realize
So
that.
Now
we're
we
all
do,
set. We'll go
and
from here.
This is a big step forward in communication, because each month you've brought up important points, and when John McLaughlin has come to speak to us. So, it's not gonna happen overnight, but
No.
It's a
Audrey
beginning.
and I have been on the board for many years. We never had a liaison from the Disabilities Commission.
Uh-huh.
So you're a big step forward, and you're bringing these things to the table, which is part of, I think,
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, it wasn't a criticism of anything, it was just a thought for going forward.
We'll work
get
on
it.
it. We'll have it at the brief at town meeting to do that.
The other, I think I mentioned this last month, but the pilot project for the Jenkins School after-hours transportation has been approved. We have, the funding is coming from Council on Aging for the final quarter of the school year. Unfortunately, I don't have any information as to whether or not anybody has utilized it. It just started mid-March.
So is it the money that the Commission on Disabilities has allocated for the Council on Aging that it's using for that? You just said the
No,
Council on Aging
yeah, I
is
did
paying
ask
for
you
it.
that, but it's part of our quote-unquote operating budget
Okay.
that we've allocated,
I
which
see. So it's a
also
COD.
included your,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but just for the pilot, we can't take it on for the whole town.
Mhm.
But if it works, if it's successful, and if people utilize it, it's $1.75 right now is the cost of transporting a person from the school to their home or whatever. So hopefully we'll get some figures as to how many people, how many children
Sure.
are able to utilize it, and that it's making a positive impact.
Yep.
And then we will move forward and ask for more support from the town to
Yep.
move forward.
Good.
So,
Thank you. Good idea.
and I think that's what we have.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
that was very informative.
Um,
If you have questions, fine, but otherwise I have to leave.
Okay, we'll let you leave. Foss, Betty, are you doing a Foss report?
I am,
Okay.
I am. I'm back, and Foss has been very busy over the winter, and I'm sure you're aware of all the activities that went on. I'm here to let you know that our upcoming weekend activity is April 22nd and 23rd, next weekend at the transfer station. A solicitation for Foss and an opportunity for seniors to meet Scituate people and talk about what we're trying to accomplish. So that's going to be Saturday and Sunday. After that is the golf tournament on June 16th, and everybody's very busy. You're going to see posters all over town. And we're already working on Heritage Days. So those are the three things that are on our agenda right now, and that's...
So what's happening at the transfer station?
It's a solicitation for FOSS.
But just as you drive in?
As you drive
Okay.
out. We're not
Dri-
interfering
okay.
with anybody as they drive in, but as
Okay.
you drive out, and we have literature to pass out to people, and we'd be happy to take donations. But mostly, it's an opportunity to meet with people, and an awful lot of people in Scituate aren't aware of the Friends of Scituate Seniors and what our goals and aims are. So
Okay.
that's what it's all about.
How much did that bring in last year, Betty?
Pardon me?
Did-
It was a lot of money, wasn't it? It was. I want to say something like 2,800 or
Yeah,
something like
Yeah, it
that.
was over 2,500.
It was a lot of money, but
Was
it
it
was
the
a lot
can?
of, it was just so nice to meet all these people and to, everybody was so supportive, and the younger people,
Yeah.
you know. Gordon was there.
I would say
He was
about
there.
half the people
Yeah.
made a donation.
It was wonderful. It was a great
And
experience.
many said, wow, I'm really glad to see that there's something happening
Yeah.
with senior
Yeah.
activity and stuff like
It was
that.
it was a great meet and greet thing.
Yeah.
We didn't know that, but we look forward to it this year. That's
does.
all.
So are you
Reaches
collecting the
people.
bottles? Or? are you-
No, we're
No.
not doing,
They're
no,
doing the
not
can
doing any
thing.
bottles. We're
Right,
just
No,
they're
reading
the
they're
can
just-
thing.
We're
Yeah.
not doing cans
them.
either.
No, okay.
I don't know who's doing
You-
that.
okay.
Somebody with a truck and more muscles than I care to demonstrate.
Okay. Anybody else have any or questions for Betty? Anybody else have any other issues, business to raise or to think about for next month?
Yeah, I've got something quick, and it might be appropriate. We were talking about robocalls before. I was at a library fundraising meeting last night, and we were talking about robocalls. And there is a internet site, it is NOMORE, No More.
Mhm.
And if you Google it on your computer, and if you sign up, apparently, your phone will only ring once. And I don't know
Oh,
how this
that's
happens in cyberspace. but
That's getting
it will
onto the
only-
no-call list.
It will only ring once.
Okay.
Because the no-call thing doesn't work.
Right.
We must get 10 at my
Right,
house
yeah.
between 6 and 9 o'clock
Yeah.
at night. But this No More apparently does work. And the phone will just ring once and it'll stop ringing.
So you
And- and-
Google it.
And it doesn't allow them to leave a message
You
usually.
And
just
it's
put
no
in,
more.
No More.
No more.
It's called nomore.com.
No More,
Just
yeah.
Google No
N-O.
More, N-O-M-O-R-E.
Okay.
So the audience.
Thank you, thank you.
So once to answer, it doesn't, if you're
No, it's a just a
Oh,
robocall.
this is the
It
phone.
won't-
Get you a flyer.
It won't, if JD calls me, he's still gonna be able to.
Okay.
But an unsolicited
Yeah,
solicitation,
one of those automated.
right,
Calls.
Right.
your phone number would be eliminated from the list.
Yeah.
But that's not gonna eliminate what we get, right?
No, no.
Oh, I hope
No,
not.
just robocalls.
Okay.
Well, we'll see, yeah, that's interesting. I don't know if we count as a rope, I don't know.
Okay,
Thank you.
anybody else have
Come
anything?
and do that. Thank you.
I make a motion.
Do I hear a motion to
Motion,
I
meeting
second
be
it.
adjourned.
Meeting be adjourned?
At 7:15.
Audrey and Lucille? Thank you. Very good. Thanks, everybody. See you next month.